Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. If you drove to work today, you relied on an absolute unsung hero of the internal combustion engine. It's a component that goes through this genuinely brutal manufacturing journey just to become one of the most resilient mechanical parts ever designed. We're talking, of course, about the connecting rod.
Just picture the environment inside a running engine for a second. This single piece of metal is responsible for connecting the piston to the crankshaft. It is subjected to blistering, intense heat and immense physical stress, surviving literally millions upon millions of violent, albeit controlled, explosions. To withstand all of that without just shattering into pieces, the raw material has to undergo a pretty radical transformation.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today's factory floor tour. First, forging SCM 420 steel. Second, CNC machining. Third, heat treatment. Fourth, fracture splitting. And finally, final assembly.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, forging the SCM 420 steel, or as I like to think of it, creating the indestructible grain. Specifically, we're looking at high-performance connecting rods made from a low-carbon, case-hardened steel known as SCM 420. Now, to fix the steel's inherent molecular weaknesses, the raw ingot is heated to a blistering 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. That specific temperature is absolutely crucial. It pushes the metal right past its recrystallization point. It doesn't melt the steel into a liquid, but it makes it highly malleable. It gets soft enough that its very internal structure can be fundamentally reorganized.
Once it reaches that glowing, malleable state, the metal is completely smashed into a forming die with an extreme 240,000 pounds of pressure. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the weight of a fully loaded Boeing 757 just dropping directly onto this tiny piece of metal. That massive compressive force totally alters the steel, compacting the molecules and perfectly aligning its internal grain structure along the load paths it'll eventually face in the engine.
Now, what's really interesting about this step is seeing how that extreme pressure handles the excess material. As the steel is press-hammered into the die, excess metal is quite literally forced out at the mating lines. This excess, which engineers call flash, is later sheared off. And what you're left with is a tightly compacted, vastly stronger solid core that's finally ready for the next step.
Which brings us to Phase 2, precision CNC machining, or shaping before the fire.
So we actually have to shape the steel while it's still relatively soft from the forge. The contrast between a rough, slightly uneven forged blank and a beautifully precision-machined profile is striking. Using multi-axis CNC machines, the factory performs operations like boring out the large and small ends, honing the interiors, and milling the external surfaces. And they are hitting micron-level tolerances here. We are talking about accuracy down to plus or minus 0.005 millimeters.
You might be wondering, why do we do all this precision machining before the final heat treatment? Well, if we reverse the order, the massive thermal shock of the heat treatment could actually warp the rod's perfect shape by as much as 0.06 inches. That might sound like a tiny amount, but inside a high-revving engine, a deformation of that size would be absolutely catastrophic. So we make sure to cut the perfect dimensions first.
Moving right along to Stage 3, carburizing, quenching, and tempering, basically forging the armor. To give our steel an unbelievable fatigue limit of 800 megapascals, we use a brilliant process called carburizing. Think about it. If a connecting rod is too hard all the way through, it becomes brittle. It'll just shatter under the explosive impacts of the engine. Carburizing completely solves this. It creates a hardened outer shell to resist wear, while intentionally leaving a slightly softer, tougher core on the inside that can absorb massive mechanical impacts without snapping.
This transformation happens in 3 rapid-fire sequential trials. First, carburizing infuses the outer 0.5 millimeters of the steel with carbon. Second, the glowing hot rod is violently quenched, rapidly cooled in an oil bath to instantly lock in that surface hardness. And finally, it goes through tempering, where it's gently heated in an oven to relieve all the internal stresses caused by that violent quenching.
Let's move to Stage 4 and see how this builds up to my favorite part. The fracture splitting method, also known as the perfect crack.
Historically, engineers just took a saw and cut the rod in half so it could be bolted around the engine's crankshaft. But today, they do something far more dramatic. Using high-powered lasers or electric discharge machining, engineers cut tiny, microscopic prefabricated notches on the inside bore of the big end. This creates a highly controlled stress concentration area. Essentially, we are intentionally giving the steel a very specific weak point.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Once that microscopic notch is cut, a massive wedge is driven directly into it. It applies this sudden, violent radial force outward until the metal snaps with a brittle crack. The solid rod is just instantly separated into two pieces, the main rod body and the end cap.
When we compare this to traditional sawing, it's a real game changer. A saw blade literally grinds away metal, meaning those two halves will never fit perfectly back together without a bunch of extra machining. But fracture splitting, it causes zero material loss. Tearing the metal apart creates this jagged, 3D concave convex surface. It is like an exact atomic-level puzzle that only fits together one specific way.
Which takes us to the end of the line, Stage 5, final assembly and finishing.
The final polish.
This is where the severed pieces of our hero are finally reunited and prepped for the engine. Because of that unique fracture split, when the cap is bolted firmly back onto the rod, those jagged microscopic peaks and valleys lock together flawlessly. If you look at a fully assembled rod, the seam practically disappears completely. This atomic-level locking completely eliminates any relative motion between the two halves under extreme engine loads. It's just brilliant.
So, the crucial point is that because the two halves are perfectly mated, the final internal boring creates what's called bearing crush. Think of it kind of like squeezing a really firm rubber grip. When the cap is tightened down, it exerts vital radial pressure, forcing the bearing shells outward to hold them securely in place. This allows an exact hydroplane of oil film to form for the crankshaft to spin on. To summarize this absolutely incredible journey, we watched a basic billet of SCM 420 steel get subjected to 2,200 degrees of heat and 240,000 pounds of pressure. It was infused with carbon for a 0.5mm hard shell, precision machined down to the micron, violently fractured into two pieces, and then perfectly reunited into a flawless, indestructible engine component.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on today. If the fracture splitting process already achieves perfect, zero-loss, atomic-level mating, where on earth does manufacturing go from here? How will future engineers improve upon a process that already seems flawlessly optimized? Definitely something to think about the next time you hear an engine rev. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.